Hey, good Monday morning, and thanks for checking out the latest long-range forecast update from BAMWX.com and theweatherporthole.com. I'm Michael Clark here with the latest, and listen, it's been wild. We've had just crazy model runs fall flat on their face here over the last 7 days. And what's interesting about this is a lot of what was modeled early last week with the intense heat really was supported by a lot of different correlations, analogs, just historical setups were setups were like this similar in the past. So it really was supported. It wasn't like the models were throwing out solutions that we just couldn't believe. And so to see them change so drastically in such a short period of time is certainly interesting and frustrating. So let's kind of talk about this. I'm going to kind of tell a story here a little bit, and we'll go forward. This is a look at the July month-to-date temperature and precipitation departures, the anomalies here. Obviously, everybody's been warm in the Corn Belt and the growing regions here. Been warm in the Deep South and the Southwest as well, but obviously been very cool in the PNW, the western half here, the western third of the United States. But it's also, July has turned very wet across the northern plains, parts of Nebraska, but it's still been very dry across portions of Iowa, Missouri, and then across, central Illinois, Indiana, portions of Ohio. Michigan actually got some good rains, all right? And actually, there has been sufficient rainfall over the weekend. That's no doubt about it. This is actually over the last 5 days. We've seen some good rain, but there is an area here in Iowa and Missouri that certainly can use the rain. They've missed a little bit of it here. And then places still across northern Indiana still kind of missing out. And places across Ohio, it's been hit or miss as well. Regardless, the pattern going forward really isn't all that bad, especially over the next week. We look here at just rainfall, anticipation of rainfall here over the next 2 days. More convective rains scattered in nature, but could be locally heavy here across the central U.S., the heart of the country, Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, and Kansas. There is the potential that some of us in here are going to get some very beneficial locally heavy rain here over the next 2.5 days. The heaviest stuff centered, again, up off to the north further around the northern periphery of the ridge up there in the northern plains. Now, here's a look at our three big computer models, all right? I've got GFS here on the left, I've got the European in the middle, and the Canadian on the right. And I'll tell you what, the performance in the computer models over the last 10 days are some of the worst I've personally ever seen. And I feel like I say this more often now than what I ever used to in terms of we're in uncharted territory. And sometimes I feel like it's almost like I'm trying to give you an excuse of how bad the forecast has been. And it's really not what I'm trying to do. But when I see something just blow my mind over and over again, it's almost this new climate period, this new climate era that we're in. The climate is just, it's different. The QBO is doing very weird things, and it's just different. I could talk about this for hours, but I don't have that kind of time. But the models they're pretty bad. Now, in the 1 to 5, we can all agree that there's probably going to, and I would definitely, if I'm siding with any model, it's the GFS. I'm just going to put that out there right now on precipitation. The European is similar. It's just not as robust, but it has plenty of adequate rainfall in the 1 to 5 day across the heart of the grain belt. The Canadian is just, going wild with two really strong clusters of thunderstorms, it looks like. But then you get into the 5 to 10, and the ridging, tries to expand or make itself more well known, especially on the European model. There's a problem with this European model. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there now. Especially the operational run, its new upgrade, there's some issues. I can tell you, I really think there are some issues. We've collected enough new forecasts now from the European that we can start calculating some biases. But the feeling is that the biases are probably incredibly large. And I was talking about that with Dr. Ryan Maui this morning, is we feel that that's probably going to be the case. Okay. Now, in the 5 to 10, the GFS still offering up rains, convective rains, different shots at rain, and I just don't disagree. The Canadian is similar. The European is on its own dry island, and again, I'm just not prepared to buy into the European model at all. Now, I want to talk about real quick the temperature forecast here over the next 7 days, because the European tries to put us into the upper 90s and 100s again. This would be now for the third time, and it's probably going to be a third swing and the miss. I don't know. I'm not sure. I just can't get on board with how extreme the temperature forecast is from the European model. All right, these are high temperatures for today, okay? Upper 80s. This is all normal stuff. All these day 3. Here's Wednesday's highs. Here's Thursday's highs. Friday. This is all normal temperature stuff, okay? This happens in summer a lot. Where it's really, probably the bigger deal is as we get in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as we get later into the weekend and early next week, temperatures will get much warmer into the mid-90s. Now, we haven't been hotter than 94 degrees in Indianapolis since 2012. So, again, that also tells me, we've got to get soils to just be drier in order to get this 95 plus extreme heat. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying I just don't think it's likely. Okay? Could the European be right? Third time's a charm, right? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it could be. Maybe we could get into a string of 100s here next week, but I just don't personally see that happening right now. Okay? And now I want to show you the low temperature forecast, because I feel like that needs to be talked about a little bit more. And we're just going off the NDFD database here. But low temperatures, Wednesday night into Thursday night into Friday, we're in the 70s. And as we get into the weekend, those low temperatures, those are in the mid 70s. And so the overnight lows during corn pollination, certainly in the mid 70s and even upper 70s at times, can certainly be problematic. That's certainly something that I just want to bring our attention to. But we talk about the computer models and their performance, and the skill scores here. Again, these are tracked from Dr. Ryan Maui here. These are pretty bad. I mean, you look back at, you're kind of clustering, how bad these runs are, and even the European is dipping down in here a few times. In the last verification it had, last night, it's fallen off drastically. And what we're tracking here is the 500 millibar height, the anomalies for the 500 millibar heights. But regardless, the skills have tanked, all well below what they're normally at. Okay, you can see where the Euro normally spends a lot of its time up in here, and you can kind of see that it's kind of steadily gone down. We've had some really big fails from the model here recently. Okay, so none of the models are really doing that great. Okay, but we'll still show them to you. I want to show you the trends, and then I want to show you what I'm seeing in the modeling. The overnight trends from the GFS on the left for week 2. All right, this is the change from the previous run. Got a heck of a lot wetter here. All right, and then it also got cooler, and that's going to happen. It got wetter, so it got cooler in week 2. This is the 7 to 14 day model cycle difference. The European model, it's back to doing its hogwash stuff again. Maybe it's right. I don't know. It got noticeably warmer in week 2, and it got drier again. And here we are again, like I said, for the third time. I just don't buy it, and I don't think anybody else is buying it either. So it's no mystery there. But you look here at I want to show you something. This is the I'm going to zoom out real quick here. On the left is the operational European model 500 millibar height forecast. Here's your 594 ridge. Here's your 591 heights. This is in the 5 to 10 day period. Okay? This is the height pattern. Here's your weak trough out here. I'm showing you this to illustrate a point. Here's the ensemble. This is the ensemble mean in the same time frame of the European. Operational on the left, ensemble on the right, little trough out here to the west. Look at the differences here and how much more extreme the operational European is on the heat. I mean, it's forecasting just significant heat. And then you go over here to the ensemble, and again, this is only the 5 to 10. There's definitely something going on. It's the same pattern, the same heights, everything. There's definitely something going on that is causing this new European model to cook it. It's cooking the forecast. It's too warm, all right? It's too warm. So, with that said, what I want to show you here is, looking at the temperatures in the 6 to 10 day, using a blend of models. And what you can see here is that when we look at this, this is the low temperature anomaly, all right? And so in the 5 to 10 day, from the blend of models, the low temperature anomaly is certainly going to run, 5 to 10 degrees above the average during a lot of corn pollination around this time, all right? And then the average temperature just in general, that was the low temperature departure. This is just the temperature departure in total in the 5 to 10. The blend is also very warm. So the models are still showing very warm temperatures that are much hotter than, quote unquote, what happens every summer in the 5 to 10. So that's not that far out, all right? And in that time frame, this is what the ensemble of the European model is trying to do, is it is trying to bring in those big heights, all right? It's trying to suggest a heat dome, if you will, quote unquote, for a time. And you have to think the best model in the world, quote unquote, in the 5 to 10 day doing this, you have to think it has some merit. So we can't totally dismiss it in the 5 to 10, right? So that is something I want to bring to your attention. That's something we are, at least certainly trying to keep in mind, is that it still can get very hot. And it may happen as early as probably the 17th or 18th of July here in the Eastern Corn Belt. So here's our week 2 outlook. Again, hottest time of the year, really, to be 5 to 8 degrees above the average. We're a little below the guidance. As I just showed you, it's got areas that are plus 10 on a 5-day average. So we're trying to, take into consideration the massive, just fails these models have had, fallen on their face, really. But the way the pattern looks to be oriented, with a lot of the core of the strongest ridging pushing and pulling from here to there, is it's going to keep over the top active. Long story short, you're gonna keep the pattern active, and that's why our week 2 forecast looks like this for precipitation. You're going to continue to keep things really dry and hot in the south central plains and the deep south, the southern plains there. And you're really gonna, you're gonna have the potential here to continue these thunderstorm clusters, these bouts of storms over the periphery of the ridge. And we saw several pictures over the weekend of hail damage and flattened corn and things like that. And that, certainly is a product of these thunderstorm clusters. So while it may rain, it's not always a good rain. It's not always beneficial when you have crop that's being flattened by these thunderstorm clusters. And these are just a few instances of what I mean. This is out of Illinois. You see hail this size obviously is going to cause some serious damage to anything that comes in contact with. And then you look at what the wind did to some of these crops, and you see how it laid this stuff over. Again, you get the rain out of these kinds of patterns, but you also they don't always come in the most friendly fashion. All right. So just keep that in mind going forward. Now, real quick, a look ahead into August. Again, we have to continue to watch kind of some of our key drivers. On the left is our Southern Oscillation Index. The SOI has overall flattened out, kind of mellowed out, and really gone positive. That is a La Nina, clue or hint or behavior in the jet, if you will, can come from a positive SOI. The correlation to positive SOIs in August in the last 10 years correlate to this strong ridge being associated here. That's showing up in the modeling. I just showed you that. I just talked about it. And the angular momentum data cuts off in 2014. I didn't have time to go through, and I can actually plot customly up until 2019. I just didn't have time to do it. But you can see that the big negative AAMs in the forecast continue to indicate ridge overall in the east, trough in the west. And then this is a look at ENSO 3.4. As we continue to possibly work towards a La Nina, we look at the upper ocean heat content, the anomalies here, and we note we've certainly seen them cool. We've backed off a little bit, but we're starting to see the Enso 3.4 cool once again. But it also, too, has this suggestion of this ridge in the east and this trough in the west, which makes me think this pattern could possibly have legs into August. All right, this type of pattern that we're seeing now could possibly continue into August. And when I say this type of pattern, I mean this is what I was referring to in that 5 to 10 day, with this ridge kind of in the east being warm with the trough in the west. That's all I have today, guys. We'll keep you posted, and we'll have our updated 16 to 30 day outlooks for our clients tomorrow. We send out 3 reports a day: morning, mid-morning, and afternoon, every day except Saturday. So we'll be watching the trends. If you have questions, let us know. Talk to you soon.